question is, are you ready? Let me talk to you. I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I can. What do you guys want to talk about? I am that damn good.
I am the B-E-S-T.
And the color red in a world full of black and white. I am the eater of worlds. Yeah, if you're some man, acknowledge me. The champ is here. But to be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm saying, woo, right here. Hey, yo. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of PCW Podcast Championship Wrestling. I am your host, Wayne, also known as Semi-Dry Chicken. And man, do we have a special episode for you. We are not reviewing a pay-per-view. We are not giving you the predictions for a pay-per-view. No, we are not going to reminisce about an old pay-per-view from the Ruthless Aggression era. We're not going to just gabble on about shit in the news. No. Today, we are interviewing a wrestling fan. Oh, yes, we are. But I can't do this alone, so let me bring down somebody from the commentary team. Dre, what's up, man?
Yo, what it do, PCW crew?
Yeah, man. So, it seems like, you know, this terrible shit weather that we've been having that's been hitting the East Coast, it seems like it's affected Doyle because he wasn't able to make it to the podcast somehow. He must have had traveling issues of some kind, but he couldn't make it today. But we have somebody here we're going to interview. I mean, Dre, interviews. I mean, I think it's a good idea, interviewing wrestling fans that we discover, because I want to hear the public, the WWE universe or the wrestling universe. I want to hear their opinions. I mean, we talk and talk and talk every month for hours on end about how we feel. Everybody knows. The peeps out there know how we feel, but how do these guys feel? Let's interview them. So coming out for this, I don't know, maybe our version of The Bump or some sort of interview show, Miz TV, whatever you think this version is. But let's bring them out.
Nobody move, there's blood on the floor, and I can't find my heart. Where did it go? Did I leave it in the cold? So please give it back, 'cause it's not yours to take.
Oh man, that music just hits the spot. Eric, how are you, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to, always excited to talk about wrestling with other wrestling fans. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, man. And when you sent me the theme music you wanted, I was like, oh, this is a good one. This is good. It's just, I mean, I just picture you walking out to the ring, just strutting it, man. The music just works, you know?
Yeah, it's got a very nice bop to it that you
Yes,
can kind of
yes.
just come on and get real easy and get ready for your match with.
Oh yeah,
Was
dude.
that Thundercat?
It was, yes.
I thought so. It sounded like his vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Ah, dude. Eric, what's your social handle? How people recognize you on social media?
So you can find me on social media two ways. Of course, on the TikTok at Articulation Station.
Mm-hmm.
I mainly just share a lot of action figure displays, wrestling, and comic book pop culture on that sort. And then you can also find me on Instagram at The Paper Champion.
Yeah, and we'll plug you again at the end of the show. But yeah, I'm just when I'm watching wrestling, it's I guess for me when you're in the middle of it, like in the middle of a Raw episode or an AEW, it seems like the hottest time to be on the social media because it's like you get right then and there reactions to something that's happening, maybe something that we missed, maybe an accident or a mishap of some kind, a botch. And the internet is always undefeated and seems to find a way to show us, or make fun of it or whatever it may be. There's always a viral moment when it comes to wrestling. So, I'm sitting there and I'm going through TikTok and I love looking through wrestling, stuff for TikTok. And I'm looking for more wrestling fans because there's a lot of wrestling fans out there I talk to and some of them don't even know what podcasts are or don't listen. But sometimes I bring them in, bring them in as fans, and sometimes they stay for a very long time. Sometimes they become part of the show. But Eric, when did you get into pro wrestling? Like, when did you start watching it? When was it like, this is what I'm into, this is what I'm going to watch, I'm a fan now?
So when I was younger, my family and I would all go on Thanksgiving to my grandmother's house. And at the time, she lived in the projects in Brooklyn. She didn't really have a lot of money. She didn't really have much, but she always had one wrestling VHS, and it was WrestleMania 9. So for some time, WrestleMania 9 was my first introduction to professional wrestling. And then I could give you the exact month and year that it synced its hooks in and never let go. And that was December of 1995. I remember the exact moment I was sitting crisscross applesauce style on the floor. And I saw The Undertaker and Paul Bear. And from there, I was absolutely just hooked. I have a fun stat that I like to tell people. So I don't know. I don't know how this is going to come across, but I have never missed an episode of Monday Night Raw. It's in the 28 years that I've been watching wrestling. I absolutely love it. I mean, that was the exact moment right then and there that I was like, yep, this is my jam. I'm never letting go of this.
So would you say that, like, Paul Bear, Undertaker, is this like before Attitude Era? Would you say that is like maybe your favorite era of wrestling?
So this was right at the cusp of what would it be known? I guess the golden era, right before the Attitude Era began.
Yeah.
So it was right at the cusp of that. I remember actually watching the Vince McMahon passe speech when he delivered that. I remember that watching live and it going so over my head at the time because, I was such a young kid. I was born in 85. So at the time I was about 11 years old, I want to say.
Yep.
So the level of it was going way over my head, but it was just shortly, either way, my introduction though was just shortly before the Attitude Era.
Yeah. I was born in 86, so very similar.
Nice.
I mean, Dre, how early were you watching like the golden era? Do you remember that era?
I mean, for me, given that I'm a bit older than y'all, I remember I started watching wrestling in the late 80s.
Yeah.
That's when I got in. So yeah, by the time the golden era came around, well, mostly WWF, I would say casually watching. Because remember, I got started in wrestling with NWA and WCW, so that's the product that I followed most diligently through the through the mid '90s, through most of the Monday Night Wars, and it probably wasn't until the Attitude Era that I fully crossed over into full-time WWF watching.
Yeah.
For that part. But so let me ask you, Eric. So if you got in at, you said '95 was when you kind of got in and got hooked and never missed Monday night, an episode of Raw. So what were you doing during the Monday Night Wars? Were you switching back and forth every Monday night like everybody else was doing, or did you just put it on USA and watch Raw and that was it?
So I was a switcher. But Raw and WWF, I guess at the time, that was my number one. But anytime there was a segment on Raw that I just wasn't too interested in, I would immediately switch over and see what was going on WCW. I loved guys like Dean Malenko, Jericho, obviously. I hate to say it, based on what he did, but even guys like Chris Benoit, I mean, some of those guys in WCW, some of them were just so different than what we were getting in WWF at the time that a part of me was like, what's going on over here? Booker T was another one, probably like my favorite WCW wrestler coming out of that time. So, suffice it to say, I was bouncing, but I'd say it'd be about 75-25 to Raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, I was probably the other way around during that time. I was probably 75% Nitro and 25% Raw at that time until Raw kind of jumped the shark with the whole NWO thing, where it was like 3/4 of the damn roster was in NWO, and then they had NWO Hollywood and NWO Wolfpack, and I was like, okay, this shit's getting ridiculous.
I never
it was
flipped.
a bit much.
Yeah, I never flipped channels. I was always like strictly WWE because I don't know. Maybe I think at the time it was just what I was able to access. Like I don't think because I didn't have cable growing up. So like if I wanted to watch wrestling, I had to go somewhere else, some friend's house to watch it. And if that friend didn't want to watch WCW, whatever. But I just grew up in a time period where I got in trouble in middle school, for telling people to suck it and like cross chopping all the time. Like that was my time period. Eric, was your favorite wrestler, you would say, from that time period? Like, okay, yeah, let's say from the golden era. What was like some of your favorite wrestlers? Besides, you mentioned the Undertaker.
Yeah, so obviously Undertaker, he takes the top as my favorite of all time. But excluding him, I really loved guys like Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
I thought was fantastic. I'm trying to think who else. Really the golden era, because I caught it so late in its run, there were a lot of guys that later in life I had to go back and look up. But some of those guys ended up going into the Attitude Era, like your Bret Harts and your Shawn Michaels, which I was also a very big Shawn Michaels fan. He was someone that I was completely all about. Bret Hart too as well. Like I said, Diesel. I really enjoyed Diesel before he went to WCW and became, Kevin Nash, which was great as well. But I really enjoyed that character for whatever reason. So those would be some of my top guys. And then during the Attitude Era, I mean, DX was obviously just one of my favorites that still to this day, I mean, thank God Triple H has become the person that he is in wrestling because, I've always been such a big fan of him. And my hot take is I've never really been too much of a fan of The Rock. I mean, obviously The Rock has his iconic moments, but I've always liked other wrestlers during his time more than I enjoyed him. But that's not knocking his abilities and his what he's done for the sport of pro wrestling.
Right. Okay. So, so you said you watch like even like now, like how much wrestling do you like take in? Like that's how I can phrase it, because you can't just say like, do you watch wrestling? Oh yeah, I watched like 2 hours of SmackDown. That's it. No, like I need to know like what's your intake like, because wrestling, if you really wanted to, you could probably get it every day of the week. I mean,
at that time period now.
So
yeah, There's definitely every single day. So I don't watch TNA Impact. I don't watch Ring of Honor. I don't watch NWA, but I do watch Raw, NXT on Tuesdays. Tonight AEW Dynamite. Then I'll watch on Fridays both SmackDown and Rampage, and then on Saturdays I'll watch Collision, or obviously if there's a PLE or pay per view or whatever from AEW or WWE or NXT. I'll watch any one of those, and then following Collision after that or whatever it is. But I watch mainly everything AEW and WWE put out on television.
Dude, nice. Yeah, it's just so much to take in. Like,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's like there's no like day of the week we can even like really record without running into like wrestling's on. Like, and even like we've done it where we're recording and news is breaking while we're recording. Like, Liv Morgan got arrested while we were recording one episode. And it's just
Wow.
oh yeah, Liv Morgan got arrested for possession of marijuana. Like when we were like on air, just broke. You know?
Oh man.
But it's like dude, it's like it's always on. Like, and it, yeah, dude, you're right. You got Raw on Monday, NXT on Tuesday. You got your AEW on Wednesday. You got your Impact Wrestling on Thursday. You got your SmackDown and AEW on Friday. And then you could fit in your NWA or what is it?
TNA.
Oh yeah, New Japan Wrestling and just
New Japan, yeah.
Yeah, you can fit all that stuff in on the weekends, and then you got like pay-per-views, and it's just it's a lot to take in.
It's a lot for sure.
Yeah, and like I do know podcasts that like review like Raw, SmackDown, AEW for the week, and that's awesome. But like, I'm not doing that a show every week, like covering. You know what I mean? It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
It's real rough, and
it's a lot.
That's why we like covering just the pay-per-views and kind of recapping. Like, we step away for a couple weeks, we come back, we recap a prediction before the pay-per-view, and then we'll do a post wrap-up. Yeah, I mean, it's even for podcasters, like, you know, like how much can even people take in listening to wrestling podcasts? Like, you know, I want to listen to like maybe like a 2-3 hour for the week. I don't think I want to listen, you know, like 8 hours worth of wrestling podcasts throughout the week. I don't know. Maybe that's why I decided not to go weekly, because I was just like, I don't think anybody wants to take in this much wrestling a week, you know, through podcasts.
Now, unless some of those people are like those super diehard people who, you know, live, eat, sleep, breathe wrestling.
Well, then you can go over to like What Culture.
You better cut me a check for that.
Yeah, you can go over to like What Culture or any of those other wrestling podcasts, but we do it monthly, baby. Sometimes we come twice a month. Yeah, and then, you know, if we get bored, we squeeze in other episodes, but through, you know, between episodes, we like to pepper in.
I admire the people who follow it. Follow not the ones who, I'm not saying I don't admire them, but the people who follow the product enough to where they can, you know, confidently speak on all aspects of wrestling, not just, you know, just WWE or all that stuff. Like, they know about the WWE product. They can talk about AEW, New Japan. They can talk about what's going on the indie scene, and, you know, who these up and coming names are, people you can check out. Like, there are people who really are about that in terms of following the product, whether they're putting out content or not. They just follow it that diligently. And like I said, for those people, like I said, I admire the hell out of them for having that you know, that commitment, or just having that much of a passion for it that they can follow it to that great of an extent.
Yeah. Live on air, Doyle just got back to me. Okay, so I'm going through your page and your social media page on TikTok, because that's where I came across you, and I like collecting action figures and putting them in my display case, but nothing to the extent of what you have and what you have going on. You know, just a quick rundown of what I've seen. You have stuff like Power Rangers, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Lord of the Rings, Mortal Kombat, Ninja Turtles, Gargoyles, Power Rangers. But, you know, you have so much wonderful stuff on there. But what caught my eye is the wrestling action figures. And you don't just display them like the average person who just like lines them all up or keeps them in the boxes and makes your house look like a store. Now, I'm one of those people who believe that if I bought it, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to take it out of its package. Oh, and I hear people already, oh, but you take it out of its package and then the value goes down. I don't care. Like, I bought it to enjoy. I didn't buy it to save it for the next dude. The only things I probably have two things that are here that aren't opened, and they're two pops, and it's because I refuse to collect pops, and it's because once you start, you can't stop, and I'm not going down that fucking road. No. So Dwayne Coleman, a listener of the show, and I know he's listening, he decided, and he knows I don't like pops. He knows I don't want to start this sick addiction of collecting pops. And he got me a Shawn Michaels and a Triple H one from DX, and I had to take them. I can't say no. And he was over the other day, and he told me he got me some more wrestling pops. So I feel like I'm going to have a collection of wrestling pops, whether I like it or not. But yeah, you have
forced upon you.
Yes, you have a great collection of wrestling action figures, and it looks like you're doing this whole multiverse situation, and it's so cool because I have something similar. So like that's why I admired it so much. I was like, man, I have something similar, but nothing on the scale of what you're doing. I love how you position all the characters in the like action poses. The wrestling ones are great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
What made you decide to go this kind of route of displaying them instead of, being the guy who keeps them all in the package, hangs them on the wall, like stacks them, to cover the whole wall, basically makes your room look like a retail store. But yours, your room looks like it's telling a story, and it's when you go in there, I don't feel like I'm in a store. I would feel like I'm in the middle of a big story, a big universe that's going on. So tell me a little bit about that.
So my idea started when I actually started posing the superheroes and the Power Rangers, all those figures. I had started posing them one day. I had a whole tier shelf design that is above my TV. And I started posing them the typical way people would pose them, just next to each other and stuff. And I don't know, one day I was, be honest, drinking a little beer, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, maybe I could just do something a little different. It seemed just boring to me. For some reason, it was making me almost not even appreciate my collection, or make me feel like I wasn't appreciating my collection. And it was just me personally. And I just decided, I'm going to pose some of these guys like they're fighting, see how it looks. Mm-hmm. And I remember I posed, it was all of the Power Rangers fighting. I think it was like Lord Zed and Vita Repulsa. And I looked at it and I was like, that actually looks kind of cool. So I decided to myself, let me continue on. And I ended up doing all these figures on a huge wall. And I said, that looks pretty good. And I'm someone that once that can of worm gets opened, it's almost a little scary what's going to happen next. Because then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? Let me take all of them down, because if I'm going to do this, let me do it. So then I did it again. And this time I had what seemed to be a whole huge war. This was back in like 2001, I think. And I did this whole war, all these pop culture good guys and all these pop culture bad guys. And people would come over to my house and they'd go into the room and they'd say, this is insane. I've never seen anything like this. I never was one to really post things on social media or even put any of my displays or my collection out there. Mainly because I just didn't want to hear from people saying, hey, you're an older person collecting toys. I just didn't want to get that kind of flack. And then ironically, I ended up seeing people like Danny O'Mani on TikTok, someone who's an older collector that, he got that love and he was not afraid to show off his display. So that's when I decided to share the superhero display that I had done. and it it got like 500,000 views, and I had a ton of likes and comments, and it boosted my confidence a little bit. And now, mind you, while I'm doing that, I look behind me in this room, and my wrestling figures are posed behind me in the typical, you know, at orders, standing upright, you know, looking forward. And I'm like, man, what if I do what I did with the pop culture villains and heroes and comic book stuff? What if I do that aspect, but with the wrestling? That makes so much sense. You know, the big battle royal I have it where everybody just fighting. It's a huge just brawl that one goes into the other. And the first thing that I did was set up Shawn Michaels about to kick AJ Styles in the face, like as if AJ was flying in with a phenomenal forearm, and HBK was kind of setting up a little pump. And then I had set up an Edge spearing Jericho. I set up a few little displays in a row. I think I have looking at it now, I have a Randy Orton RKOing Cody Rhodes. And I had set that up, and I posted that online, and people started throwing out ideas and started liking it. And once again, it kind of triggered a little bit inside me where I was like, all right, let's keep it going in typical Eric fashion. I then started going nuts, building in more shelves, and that's when it became what it is now. And it's been like this now for about quite a while. I want to say maybe 8 months now. It's been like this. It's due for an overhaul. Once I'm done with the whole multiverse war I have going on, I have plans for the wrestling world to make it even better than what it looks now. But yeah, it's something that I look back at now, and I'm quite proud of how it's become. And I enjoy when other wrestling fans, you see the Easter eggs that I've added in there. Like I have Natty, Natalia Neidhart, and her father kind of standing next to each other. That a couple people have noticed. I got Jeff Hardy doing the swanton on the Dudleys as Matt's taking a 3D. A couple other little Easter eggs in there that it's nice to see people catch them, and it's great to see people appreciate it. You know, I've never thought that people would appreciate it as much as they did, but it's nice. It's quite flattering.
Yeah, you have such a variety of different types of pop culture. I mean, just all those stuff I rattled off earlier. And that's what just draws them to that page, and that's awesome. Cause like, you know, I wasn't gonna ever take that kind of crap from people either. Like, oh, you collect toys or action figures. Like, why can't you collect something cool? I'm like, dude, like I'm taking advice from a dude who collects like TV guides or like street signs or like old beer cans. I'm like, dude, everybody collects something.
Exactly.
At least when if this is what I'm hoarding, you know, at least when I'm dead, it's gonna be fun as hell to go through and divvy up. Do you rather do that, or would you rather be on an episode of Hoarders going through like my old like porcelain dolls or some shit? You know what I mean? Like, Grandpa had like 300,000 license plates from old cars we gotta throw away. Like, no, everybody has a hobby, and like, I wasn't into even collecting action figures until I was older. It was like, at first for me, it was kind of recapturing some of my childhood. It was mostly toys from my childhood. It was like, oh man, like, you know, I'm into like Batman and Iron Man. That's kind of like the two things I really like collecting a lot of.
Nice.
And then, you know, just the average Marvel and DC stuff. Oh my goodness.
Sorry about that.
But so, you know, I saw like, you know, I'd go to a flea market or something. I'm like, oh my god, like I used to have this toy like back in the 90s. And by the way, that was from Back to the Future, wasn't it?
It was a regular. I forgot to put my phone on mute. That's my text tone.
I fucking knew it. I knew it. Yeah. So like, I would find, like, you know, stuff from my childhood, I would collect them, and then it's just, like, it just grew and grew and grew, and to the point now it's, like, now I collect, like, I need one of the best version of that character. Like, I got a Loki, and I was like, okay, well, now I want the best version of my favorite version of Loki, so, you know, I go out and look for that specific one, or the version of Thor I really liked. You know,
that is the exact way that I also too collect. I don't like to have multiple versions of a character unless there is a reason to.
Yes.
The suit's got to be different, and even for that, sometimes it's like it's pushing it a bit. But I am the same exact way. You won't see two Peter Venkmans next to each other unless one is the older one and one is the younger one. So that would be the only reason why that would even be there. But I'm not one to have like two multiple. I like for other collectors to get a chance to get stuff. The same way. I recently got the new Wolverine figure, and I love it because it's like just the one Wolverine I've been waiting for, the '97 comic book one, and it's like perfect. So I have no other desire to get another Wolverine in my collection. And I've actually even been asked that in comments. Why you only have one Wolverine? Because that's the only one I want.
So is that how you feel about because like with pro wrestling, a wrestler, their gimmicks are just changing so much. You know, like there's multiple versions of the Undertaker. Like, you know, there's multiple versions of Shawn Michaels. There's multiple versions of I don't know, like Kane even. Like how do you decide on wrestlers, like which version you're gonna get? Because like you could get Seth Rollins this year, but next year he might have a different gimmick that you might like even more.
That is the unfortunate conundrum with wrestling figure collecting, is the constant questioning of, do you need him because he's in this attire? Do you need him because of the gimmick change? Like, how much is it worth it getting it? Because I fall into that trap. When AJ Styles first signed with WWE, I loved AJ Styles from his TNA and Impact days. And when he signed with WWE, he had that look. I'm like, he's going to make a great figure. And every single one of his figures that first came out, I bought it. And now I look back at it, I'm like, I only disposed one, and I only really like maybe two of them. And I've got like seven. And I'm like, I really need this many AJ Styles? Probably not. So I've tried to get a little bit smarter with how I handle it. I try to know how Mattel is going to pump out the figure. So, for example, I try to get all the little inside scoops as I can too as well. So, one wrestler in particular is Dominic Mysterio. I have an old Dominic Mysterio figure that was from when he started, when he was wrestling with his dad in the tag team. And there are a few Dominic Mysterio Judgment Day figures that one had recently came out that I was going to jump on, but then I saw that they plan on releasing another one that's a little bit more updated in like later this year. So I'm like, well, it's a good thing I haven't pulled the trigger on the first Judgment Day one if they plan on just releasing a second and better one. So a lot of it is you got to be prepared. You got to know what's coming up. It's a little bit easier with guys that maybe aren't on TV as much, or guys that aren't as popular, because you know those guys probably won't get another figure for a while. So you want to get them. So, for example, I have a Chad Gable. Chad Gable I have is him with long hair, so I should tell you how old the figure it is.
Yep.
But there is a new one that's out now that I'm like, okay, it's about time for that upgrade. And now he's someone that, while he is on TV a lot, he doesn't get too many figures. So he's someone that I would jump on and then eventually maybe sell, or I have a lot of young cousins and stuff that I would just give them little hand-me-down wrestlers that they can just beat up and stuff. So you really it's a combination of a few things. And then obviously want and desire. There's a lot of Hulk Hogan figures, for example, that are out, but I have two. I have Hogan in red and yellow, and I have Hogan in NWO. I don't need Ichiban Hogan or Hogan in blue or Hogan in, green.
Oh, Mr. America. Yeah, Mr. America.
So is there like an Eleanor of wrestling figures, as a Gone in 60 Seconds reference, like that one figure that you really have always wanted to get but either can't find, or the one that you did manage to get that was harder or more rare, unique, or the one that has gotten away or been the most difficult one for you to acquire? Do you have one of those in your collection?
So I did, and thankfully toy companies now are getting a little bit hip to some of the, I guess, grails that have gone by and fans have regretted not getting. One of them in particular, actually, that I'm thinking of now, just popped in my head, was a CM Punk. Thankfully, he signed back with WWE because they'll probably end up re-releasing this figure a little bit more updated. Fingers crossed, but it was a CM Punk figure in his attire from Money in the Bank when he won the matchup and left that infamous moment where he blew the kiss to Vince McMahon. And he was in that attire, and I remember I loved that attire.
2011.
The figure obviously sold out. I had chances and opportunities at the time to get it, but you can't predict the future and how his career would end up going, a couple of years after that.
Right.
And that figure is essentially almost like untouchable for a decent price. And it's one that I haven't gotten it yet. Hopefully going to get it soon. Hopefully, like I said, they re-release it. As for one that I did getting is it was a pink on pink Bret Hart figure. And I always loved that Bret Hart. Anytime he wore his black on black or his pink on pink attires, I actually really loved that aesthetic for him. And they had made, Mattel had made probably going on 10 years ago now. Maybe a little bit less, but they had made a Defining Moments Bret Hart. He was in, I believe it was Defining Moments. No, I'm sorry, it was a ringside exclusive Bret Hart, and it was a pink on pink attack, I think was what it was called. That figure looks incredible. I never got the opportunity. I had the chance. It was orderable on ringside collectible at the time, and I just, once again, just didn't even think that it'd be such a sought-out figure in my eyes. And not until recently, they re-released a couple of pink-on-pink Bret Harts, and I was able to finally get one that it satisfied me enough where I'm like, this is good enough. I'm cool with this. I finally got a pink-on-pink Bret Hart that I've missed out on for 10 years or so. So that's probably the one I would go to for sure.
You got to get yourself an R-Truth Judgment Day.
Yeah, they got to pump that out quick, man. That's the one downfall too. Is sometimes with wrestling figures, the turnover is so long that by the time the figure of the character comes out, they're not in that gimmick anymore. And it almost happens so much that I think that they do it on purpose. Yeah, I have a little bit of a conspiracy behind it because it just happens way too much. It's like, come on.
Well, I feel that way.
Yeah, it's a little different between trying to tool a whole action figure versus like pumping out a shirt. You can print up a shirt and capture a moment in a heartbeat. We've seen WWE do that countless times, from the Phil and Uzi to Yeet and Mommy's Always on Top to countless shirts.
Oh,
absolutely. The whole tooling behind an action figure or something like that.
The faded out Yeet came so quickly. Like the scribbled out or whatever Yeet, the non-visible, blurred out. That's what I was looking for.
Blurred one, yeah.
So quickly.
Yeah, versus an action figure when you're trying to, that's a whole mold you have to create and this, that, and the third. It's not like you can sit there and take, all right, well, we got this R-Truth and it looks just like that, so just swap the color palette and make it this. It doesn't always work that way.
Well, you probably could have R-Truth. The man fucking never ages. That man's in his 50s. He does not look like he's in his 50s. He does not move like he's in his 50s. He's still got it. R-Truth is on TV right now. That's what's most important. That man is getting airtime. And he's the #1 merchandise sale right now. He overthrew CM Punk. That's
incredible.
Fucking bananas. The man has held the 24... I don't know any other wrestler who's held a title that many times. Doesn't matter what the title is. I don't give a fuck. Nobody's held a title as many times as that man, and can go away as long as that man can, and come back and become #1 merchandise sales, and insert himself into like a big storyline of a stable, and then he can just go away for a couple months and do the same thing again. R-Truth is fantastic. I'm so glad he's a wrestler that they never let go. But,
yeah, he's fantastic. He's a gem. He's a pure gem. Every time he's on screen, he cracks my funny bone every time.
So with your collection, are you getting to the Matt Cardona? Zack Ryder stage? That's what I can't pronounce his last name correctly. Zack Ryder. Are you getting to that stage now where you're going to have You're obsessed with certain ones that you need to get. I don't know. He's like a whole nother level from what I've seen with action figures and what he spends on them. My
Yeah,
God.
he's definitely. I think he's called himself the Godfather of collecting. Um, he's for sure someone that has a mind blowing collection. I can't say that I'd be uh, that determined, I guess to say,
Yeah.
to get everything that he has in his collection. It's definitely respectable that he does all of that to get all of that. I can't see myself getting that far just because, oh, I don't know. That's a lot. It takes up a lot of space now that I'd imagine with the collection of his magnitude is warrants a few rooms in the household.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of right now have most of my stuff contained in my office. Outside of the office, like the living room, around the house, I have canvases and paintings and stuff of, like the living room's like movies theme. Like, I have movie theater stuff. And then, throughout the house, I have like maps from video games and like just art, I don't know, like video, superhero artwork and stuff, Star Wars stuff. But other than that, I keep all my action figures in one space. I'm so running out of space. But I see how you have yours. But I also play VR in here, so I can't go to the extent that you do. But I'm thinking about it and just saying screw VR, and because I'm running out of space. Every time we go out, I'm always looking for new action figures, and I always come home with something. And Christmas time, my God, like I was at Ollie's the other day, not the other day, around Christmas time, and the toys were like so cheap, and I was like, oh man, I gotta pick up action figures, like ones that I'm missing. I'll tell you right now, kids, the action figures that nobody fucking wants that sat there, even went down to like 30% off. They were cheap as shit. Nobody wants the Eternals. The whole collection was there. If everybody,
I feel bad for that line.
I
That
do
whole
feel bad.
line is just.
I do feel bad. But I know this is a wrestling podcast, but I'm gonna spit something right now. It's like nobody, the whole collection. You could have bought the whole collection of the Eternals right then and there, probably like under $50, all of them. And
I believe it.
Yeah, nobody wanted them. Nobody just wanted them. And I'll tell you what. Let me know if you guys get this feeling too. Have you guys ever been to like, I don't know, like a store or like a market or a flea market or something, and you see like either one of two things. You either see a really old action figure or a wrestler that nobody's gonna probably buy, and you just laugh at it, or you see like they're like fake wrestlers. Like they're like, oh, this is Mr. Strongman, and it's like a fake wrestler. It's like, you really, and this guy looks like a knockoff Hulk Hogan or something. Like,
Yeah,
you guys ever come across that kind of stuff? Like,
yeah, I like in the old dollar stores. It actually
yes.
makes me think of a specific memory of when I was younger and I would visit my grandparents, and they lived in Brooklyn and stuff like I was mentioning earlier. And there would be like a lot of clearance stores, and they would always have like a 4-pack, and it'd be like Mr. USA, and it'd be Hulk Hogan clearly, and Showboater, and it's like clearly like a Ric Flair looking guy, Mr. Mysterious, and it's like a guy that looks like Sting or something, and it's like, okay, those they always make me laugh. Those little, I guess, dollar store, Dollar General wrestling figures.
Yeah. Now, do you have the wrestling ring?
So I do have a ring. I
Yeah.
currently have it in a closet in the other room because it is 20 by 20. So it's freaking huge as far as just, I can't really put it anywhere right now. It is something that I do plan on working into the second version of the wrestling display. I don't want to give away exactly what ideas I got going on with it. But it's something I'm going to try to work into the display because I think it would just look really cool with everything I have going on to have a ring somewhere within there.
You said 20 by 20?
Yeah, so it's 20 inches by 20 inches.
I have a tape measure right here in my hands. Wow. That's a pretty big ring.
That's a good size.
Damn, dude, like professional rings are 20 by 20 feet. Now you have a 22 by 20 inch. Like that's dude, that's crazy. Like that takes up my whole that's too much. I can't fit that shit on my desk.
Yeah, it's huge, and I've tried to put it in certain areas, and I'm like, no, it's just too big. Even I have one of those. I have actually three, but of those IKEA D-loft shelves.
Yeah.
That they're all glass and they have the tops, and it doesn't even fit nicely on top of one of those. It hangs off, and where I have my D-lofts right now, it just doesn't really look good. So I'm gonna try something. I might end up having to saw it in half. It's a little spoiler alert, I guess, right there to kind of fit it in and make it look interesting enough. But we'll see. That's honestly probably something I'm not going to work on until December, maybe.
Yeah.
Knowing with how everything else is going here, I'm going to take some time off once the superhero display that I have going on, the whole multiverse thing is done. I'm going to spend a lot of time basically filming and photographing that before I start working on a whole nother display.
Dude, that's cool. Like, do you I do it. Do you we'll just be randomly sitting in your room and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna tinker with some toys. I'm gonna move this guy here, move this guy there, move this guy's arm.
Oh yeah,
tinker.
Oh,
I tinker.
That sometimes can open up a can of worms because I've in the past have just said, you know what? Let me move him over a bit, and then I've moved someone else over and moved someone else over, and then all of a sudden there's space now for new things, and it's like, oh, what I do, Eric? What'd you do? Now it's 2 a.m. and you've been working on this now for the last half hour, and you've gone through all 3 Lord of the Rings, and you've just continue posing, and it's like, oh man. So sometimes I have to check myself to be like, it looks good. It looks good. People will come over to my house and be like, dude, it looks good. But I try to get as many cool ideas out there as I can. I try to make it look as best as I can for what I have. But yeah, I end up sometimes just going a bit overboard and over posing too much and just being like, all right, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
What is your what is your earthquake situation like there? Like, if you have an earthquake, are we picking up a lot of action figures off the ground, like my house?
So I always, anytime I set up these displays, I always try to think of stability over practicality.
Good.
Maybe I'm saying that maybe wrong. It's okay. But I just always try to think of stability because there is a garage on the other side of the wall. So when the garage door opens, sometimes the wall does vibrate just a little bit. In the past, I've had to pick up figures that just fall. But I try to brace them as much as possible. I use rope light clips that are used just to literally clip rope lights onto. You screw them into the wall. And a couple of years ago, I found that they fit great onto basically every single action figure's ankles or wrist. Whoa. Or elbow or knee or bicep. Yeah, so that's how I actually have all of them posed. So if you go on my profile, you could see, I think I pinned the clips that I actually use so people can go and get them. Pretty sure you can get them at Amazon. That's where I believe a few other people have told me they've gotten them from. I originally got them at Home Depot. They're in the lighting section, just like a 12-pack or something. But yeah, that's what I use to basically clip them onto the wall. So between that and putty, the little blue putty that, honestly, I first learned about this stuff from when I was in school, and high school teachers would put up posters and stuff with it because it's removable and it's basically like a blue little silly putty almost. Mm-hmm. And that holds stuff in play. But recently the toy community's told me about a couple other things that I can use, like museum wax, which is clear, which is something I got to invest in because it looks great and it also holds things in place. So between that and the clips and making sure things not only look cool, but like I said, at least there's some sort of balance. I have to make sure, that it's not going to fall. Then that's pretty much how I get them all to stay.
All that being said, if we ever have an earthquake in Florida, you're going to have bigger problems than those action figures.
That's another thing, too, for sure. If there's an earthquake here, I'd be like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if earthquake hits Florida, something's gone horribly wrong with this planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's why it's so safe to set them up there, It's probably the safest place to set them up right now.
Potentially. Hopefully, I fear. So Florida's like Swiss cheese, so I fear like a sinkhole
Yeah.
because God forbid I wouldn't know what piece of my collection to save. Um, I mean, I'd probably save my cats first because I have two
Yeah.
lovely cats that I'd probably just throw in the garage really quick and throw in the car. But besides that, I'm not sure. Maybe Galactus, I guess, because I paid a lot of money for that one. So I always think, what am I gonna grab?
Yeah, I was say hurricane season now. That's something to worry about down there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thankfully, knock on wood, my family and I have been blessed to not have had so much damage or have been so much of a victim directly to any hurricanes, other than maybe some power outages. But yeah, that's something too. It's like, oh man, hopefully that never happens. Um, but either way, I mean, they probably still be braced onto the wall with how sturdy I latch them on there.
I thought hurricane season was over.
I understood that reference.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so like, are you into any wrestling video games? Like, is that like just something that like maybe
I love them.
Oh
I
yeah,
love them.
the 2K.
Yeah, I don't have the AEW one. Mainly,
It's okay.
I
Not
just
a lot of
didn't
people
like. Yeah, I just didn't like how it looked, and I understand it was like a throwback to the N64 days, but I was just like, not for me. I love to use WWE 2K for the simulation purposes.
Yep.
I love it. So that's literally what I do sometimes. Like if I'm off and I got nothing going on, I'll just work on my collection and I'll just simulate a bunch of tournaments or Royal Rumbles and stuff. And
I've
I'll
done that
download. There's like an amazing community of creations that I'm like, these look like the actual wrestlers. Like, how do these people make these? Like, there's a couple MJFs that are like mind blowing, like artwork. I'm like, these look insane. So I just, download them and do my e-feds and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm big on them. I can't wait actually to see what they do with the new WWE. I know they just announced a couple of things today. I think maybe I'm not really too sure, but I
Yeah,
know there were a
they're
couple.
supposed to be announcing very soon the new details on this year's game, which I'll probably get. I always get the wrestling games. I always play the campaign, and then I find all the bugs, and it pisses me off. And they do things like, we'll make the decision for you, even though we allow you to make decisions the entire game of your wrestling career. But if we want to fuck you over, we're gonna do it automatically and not let you fucking choose. Like if we want to screw you over with a Money in the Bank briefcase cash in, we're gonna screw you over. We're not gonna give you a chance to defend yourself. Sorry. I have some drama.
You're good.
Some video game 2K drama. Dude, the community creations I agree with. It's crazy how like some like I don't know, some like 12-year-old kid can make a better version of what 2K did. It's like, dude, all they did was re-release this wrestler with a different outfit, but yet they made it look better than you guys did. It is crazy with those 2K games. There's always something. They just can never nail it. My opinion is because they would always have to. The same thing happened. I know we're getting a little controversial now, but the same thing happened with like Call of Duty and stuff. I think because if you feel the need to have to pump out a game every year, I feel like the quality is missing. And I was hoping
I
when we
agree
went to,
more with the Call of Duty reference. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, when we went to 2K, I got excited, and then the first version of 2K dropped, and I was disappointed. I know there was 1 year after that I didn't get it. I got last year's, but it's like, how can we not just sit down in a room and just take a poll from each one of the wrestling games we've made in the past? Like, what was the best quality of all these games? What are people raving about? Why do people keep going back to SmackDown Know Your Role or SmackDown Shut Your Mouth or the original SmackDown versus Raw games or or old an old WCW game? Like, why do people go back to these old games? Why don't we figure out what people liked about them and update it and modernize it? I always thought that, why don't you guys just work on a really good game and then just have DLC every year? Like, I understand. You know, John Cena changes his shirt every time he comes back. I don't need to buy a new game. Just give me the DLC. Just give me 30 versions of John Cena. I'll pay whatever the microtransaction is. Grand Theft Auto didn't come out with a new game every year. They stayed relevant all the way from 2013 till now. They just microtransaction everything to stay afloat, and that's why couldn't WWE do that with their games? Just update rosters. I have issues.
Because ain't as much money in that process.
I don't know.
If they did that, I'll almost bet you WWE would almost go the Warcraft route, where you'd almost have to subscribe to the game rather than just buying a simple product. Because the way that game comes in that development cycle and the cost that goes into developing it, I don't know that it would even be sustainable to do just a single release and then just update it. Like, you pay for the update, people would just be like, yeah. And I don't know that there would be enough incentive to pay for the update. So it's like, what, the 2K, the 23 roster comes and you have to buy the update? Like, what are you really getting? Oh, now you get Bianca Belair on the SmackDown side. It's like, who cares? I already got Bianca Belair. If I want to have Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, I can do Bianca versus Becky. I don't need to pay for the update for that, or just for new reskins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand why you kind of have to do the model of, a new game every year, as much as it seems impractical. And it would probably be much more gamer friendly to just put the game out and then update the roster periodically. It's just, I understand the business aspect as well.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I think if you did it, you'd almost have to go to, like I said, a subscription type service where you subscribe to the WWE universe, the game, and you pay X amount of dollars a month, play this game, and it's some online thing, and you can wrestle anybody anytime, yada yada, blah blah blah, and then that is live updated periodically. But
it's not a bad idea for even a separate game.
A WWE MMO.
Right, basically, yeah.
Everybody creates their own wrestlers, and you have live events like, all right, this Friday we're having a live event, Royal Rumble or something like that, and you get in a lobby with 29 other people.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Actually, I would play that.
I used to have friends come over, and I would have them, if we threw a party or something. It's like, all right, dude, everybody's gonna enter the Rumble. So, we'd be just hanging out and chilling, talking, and wait until you hear your theme music hit. Or we would do, set up tournaments and stuff. I always thought wrestling tournaments were always fun with friends. Especially, when you do a tournament, you could do, if it's just one-on-one fights, you could just set up, 16 people. Depending, however many people you have at a party, I've done that before.
That's awesome.
Now, do you get wrestling merch too, gear, shirts, any wrestling titles? What kind of other wrestling stuff do you collect?
So I also have, much like yourself, I don't dabble in pops, and for the very same reason, I know that I would buy far too many pops.
Oh yeah, I greatly appreciate them being bought for me. I just know if I started collecting, it would become an obsession.
Yeah. The amount of licenses and IPs they have, it would be way too much money going into that for myself, and I just can't do that. But so I do have a couple of wrestling shirts. I try to get at least one shirt for every wrestler that I like. I'm not as obsessive as I am with wrestling figures, not at all. But if I go to an event, I like to get a shirt from the event. Of whoever's on the card, be it AEW or WWE. I'm fortunate by me, NXT does they do their local Florida circuit by me. So there's actually a little armory by me that they hold house shows. So I try to go there. It's 10 minutes away. So I try to go there every time they hold a show, and I'll always buy a shirt from there if they have a superstar from NXT that I like there. So other than figures, really just no belts. I don't know why. They're a lot of money, and it's something that I never really wanted to have in my collection. If someone got me one, that'd be awesome. I've got a couple belt designs that I absolutely love, like the Undisputed title from back in like the Ruthless Aggression era. That was such a beautiful looking title. So, but I don't have any though belts. But yeah, shirts. I got definitely a couple of shirts that I love. I usually wear them all year round.
Yeah, I have a huge collection of wrestling shirts, and a lot of them are just from like when I was younger, and I can't fit in them anymore.
Nice.
So it's like I go to my girlfriend like, well, you could wear these now. Like I can't wear them anymore, and like I'm not gonna. She's like, well, you get rid of them. Like no. You do not get rid of I'm a sexy rock star Chris Jericho shirt. You don't get rid of a shirt like that. You don't get rid of a Yes Movement Daniel Bryan t-shirt, okay? You don't get rid of a classic DX shirt. You don't get rid of that kind of stuff. You keep it. I have
absolutely.
And it's kind of funny too, because sometimes you don't realize you're a fan of somebody till you look into your closet. And sometimes I would just I remember a time where I hated, not really, I don't know, hated is just the word I would choose. Like, I don't know, I got tired of seeing John Cena's face for a hot minute in the Ruthless Aggression era. He was just in my face.
Sure.
And
I get it. Yeah,
but I go in my
every
closet.
Fan has had that stage.
Yeah, but I go in my closet, it looks like a goddamn bowl of Fruity Pebbles is spilled over, because there's colors of John Cena, hustle, loyalty, and respect going through my closet. Word Life. I have his WrestleMania Word Life shirt, I have the tons of John Cena shirts, and it's like, damn, I guess I'm a fan, I'm like, how did it come to this? How do I have 10 John Cena shirts? But now PCW has their own merch on ProWrestlingTees.com. So now the new thing for me is I gotta collect them all. I gotta get all the PCW shirts. I gotta get the original logo. I gotta get the NWO version. I gotta get the DX version. I gotta get the standard Peeps shirt. I gotta get them all. And I gotta get them larger because I want to be able to, when I how do I put this? When I cultivate more mass, I want to still be able to fit into my PCW shirt. So if you ever order a PCW shirt, I recommend, maybe because they're cotton, ordering them one size larger.
All right, nice.
Yeah. But what else do we want to talk about? I guess you don't have a collection of DVDs and VHS anymore, because now you can get everything on Peacock, right? I mean, you want to go back to...
Yeah, pretty much they've got everything on there. And wrestling DVDs were something I was never really one to buy. I do have a couple of their documentaries. I believe I have the Shawn Michaels, and I've got another one. I don't know what it is. It might be the Batista one, I believe. But yeah, as far as DVDs, I've never been one to get them. You can pretty much get everything on Peacock now. And when they announced the network at first, whenever it was, however many years ago it was, that was the moment that I was like, yep, never buying any wrestling tapes, DVDs. Nope, none of that no more.
Right.
So,
out of all things wrestling, that was probably the one thing I did collect a little bit of for maybe about a year or two. I had a run where I was snatching up those DVDs. Like right around towards the tail end of the Attitude Era. Like I got the WrestleMania 18 DVD. I got WrestleMania 20.
Yep.
And right in that area, when they were coming out with like a bunch of the superstar DVDs, like Stone Cold, Steve Austin, What? I got that one. I got The Rock. I got Ric Flair one, which was like, I think, a 3 DVD set. I got the Hulk Hogan one. I got Bret Hart. Road Warriors.
Yep.
I got a Chris Benoit one.
Yep.
What else am I? Who else do I have? Do I have a Mick Foley? I don't know if I have a Mick Foley one. I don't know. I'd have to go back. I got them all in some plastic crate somewhere. There's, like I said, a bunch of those old wrestling DVDs from that time frame.
Yeah.
Some were better than others. I got Monday Night War. I got that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, some were better than others. But yeah, I don't know what it was at that time. I just went on a run of just collecting them when they came out.
Yeah, I mean, Dre.
Nice.
What's the thing?
And
is,
I don't
like,
know how I missed WrestleMania 19. Like I got 18 and 20, but didn't buy 19. I don't know why.
Yeah, like a lot of those movies, some of them you can't find anywhere. Like that Chris Benoit one, might want to hold on to that one. Might be worth something someday. Because another good one that's hard to find, The Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior.
I don't remember if I have. I remember the
used to
time
have
that
that.
came out.
Yeah.
I think that may have been one that I skipped by. I don't remember if I have that one or not. I don't think
That's
I do.
one I regret not getting to as well,
Yeah,
because that one was so whoa.
Yeah. I used to own
It was clearly it was so much propaganda in it.
But like,
Yeah.
Clearly, they
it's-
put that one out with an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, let's trash talk the motherfucker as much as we can. Like, holy crap. And then, like, fast forward, like, God knows how many years later, then, they bury the hatchet. It's just like, I don't know, man. I think if I was Warrior, before that Hall of Fame, I kind of would have watched that movie one more time and be like, I don't forget. Like, but that's like another movie. Like, I've wanted to watch it again, but I can't find it anywhere unless I need to buy it off of eBay or some shit and since he's dead, it's even more money. But
Yeah,
and
I
I
do.
know
Yeah,
that,
I kind of regret not buying that one now. I'm pretty sure I did not because I felt like it was propaganda, and
so
I think
like, if people are at garage sales, pawn shops, even like have old wrestling DVDs and stuff, like look through them. Like there's some of them that Peacock will not show. Or another good thing is Peacock also changes music rights to a lot of things. We recently just watched WrestleMania 19, and I was on Revisiting the Mania podcast, and we were talking about how they changed. I think it was Hulk Hogan's music. Well, they are one of the music, the theme songs. They changed it, because times have changed, rights have gone other places, and it's just weird that they can go back and just tweak it, and just enough that they tweak the theme music, the theme music of either a wrestler or the theme music of the pay-per-view. But if you go back and you have those DVDs, like you have that forever. You have Benoit stuff that you can't probably watch a lot of other places, or even like a Benoit documentary. Like it might be, who knows? It might be that way with Chris Jericho too. Like, or some other wrestlers who might get in some shit. Just there's certain stuff like that you just can't get anymore. Granted, I love Peacock to death. Well, not Peacock, but I love the idea that we finally were able to get wrestling all in one location. I'm not digging.
Anytime we want.
Yeah, anytime I want of the day, I can reminisce about any time era, any wrestler's certain point in his career, any pay-per-view that stuck out. Like, I can just go back and watch it. And, some people take that shit for granted, but like, the OG is where it's at, though. The DVDs and the VHS, that's where you get all the stuff that Peacock didn't fuck with. So.
Oh yeah, especially back then, because they would put the DVD out usually within a month or two after, especially for like the pay-per-view DVDs. They would try to put them out at least a month or two after it aired, so that way it didn't become too outdated or too irrelevant. It's like I think I got the first ECW One Night Stand. I think I've got that on DVD.
Oh damn!
Nice.
I got that one. I got one of the I got the SummerSlam with Brock versus The Rock versus Brock Lesnar.
Good one. That's a good SummerSlam. Sable was on the poster of that one, right?
No. The poster of that one was just The Rock and Brock Lesnar face to face.
Oh yeah,
with the stare down. But that's the one that also had Shawn Michaels' return match.
Yep.
That was a great match. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. Well, Eric, this has been great, man. I'm so happy I came across you. It's great to know that we have another wrestling fan out there. I want to attach your social media links to the post, to the podcast when we drop this episode. I want people to come and find you. I want people to follow you and see. So you guys just got to take a look. Like, I know there's some people like, oh, well, I don't have the TikTok that the kids have. Well, you know what? You don't need to have an account to go look. You can browse TikTok without an account. So I'm going to post it. I want you to go up there. I want you to check it out. I want you to give them a follow if you can. Get some likes. To just go back and look at the progress of you know, your multiverse that you're doing. And it's ever growing. It's just getting larger. I'm excited to see where it goes. I hope we have you back on here. We do a lot of predictions and post shows, award ceremonies, news, blah, 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 blah. We do it all. So yeah, another person on, another peep added to the show. That'd be great. Again, promote yourself, Eric. Where can people find you if they want to follow your stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been awesome. Like I said in the beginning, it's always great to yap about wrestling with other wrestling fans. Just enjoy wrestling, and I love doing that. Anyone can find me on either the TikTok if they want to check out the displays that I've got, what I've got coming in the future. That is Articulation Station, just one word on TikTok at Articulation Station. And then on Instagram, you can find me at The Paper Champion on Instagram. And there I always share either wrestling memes, wrestling photos, and a couple other things that I'm working on that I plan on releasing in the future as well.
Dude, awesome. Dre, do you want to plug anything, or do you want to ask Eric anything else before we head on out of here?
Quick hit wrestling questions before we get you out of here, James.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. First up, favorite wrestler, top 3 wrestlers of all time.
Personal favorite or who I think is the best 3 of all time?
Who you think are the best 3? I think that's harder.
I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels. I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan. And I'm going to go with Kurt Angle.
God damn, I like
Okay.
I like this guy. Such good shit.
Yeah.
All right. So, favorite match of all time?
Oh, going to go Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25.
Nice. Good choice.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you can have dinner and you can have any 5 people associated with the wrestling industries, doesn't have to just be wrestlers. They can be wrestlers, referees, whoever. Any 5 people from the wrestling business at that dinner, dead or alive.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
would you
First
have?
off, who's picking up the bill? Because that's important.
No, doesn't matter.
I'm not inviting Yokozuna and Otis and stuff if I'm picking up the fucking bill.
So I would have Vince McMahon Sr. I would have Vince McMahon Sr. I would have 5. Let's see here. Let me think this out. Vince McMahon Sr. is the first one I would definitely have at the table. I would have Eric Bischoff. I would have Jim Cornette. I wouldn't have Vince himself. So he wouldn't be there because I got his father and I'd rather hear his father's perspective, especially if I was going to bring him into current day. I'm thinking deep on this. So if I was to bring him into current day Resurrection for a dinner and see what his outtake on the current landscape of professional wrestling is, I think that'd be interesting. Cornette, he gets a lot of flack, which is reasonable flack, but I respect his mind and his love for professional wrestling. I respect it a lot. Bischoff, because I think that'd be interesting to have with those two. Next would be Teddy Long, because I think people sleep on Teddy Long. Has some amazing wrestling stories, and he's been in as a manager, obviously as the iconic general manager that he was on SmackDown, but he probably has so much great stories to tell during that dinner. And then the last one would be Undertaker, just to have the veteran in there that has, well, amongst all those other gentlemen, that has competed in the ring and probably has stories with those people and, you know, maybe stories that can relate. I think that would be a very interesting dinner there.
Oh yeah, well, I can promise you, Teddy Long and Taker have stories together because Teddy Long managed Taker for a period of time, if I'm not mistaken, back in the old WCW days.
Oh, during his Mean Mark Callis days, or Calloway days, I believe it is.
I believe so. Not in the Mean Mark Callis. Well, I guess he was still Mean Mark Callis at the time, but yeah, I believe it was part of a version of the Skyscrapers. I could be wrong on that. Don't hold me to that. But
Okay. Nice.
I know Teddy Long. Obviously, Teddy Long managed a bunch of tag teams back in the day, from Doom with Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, and they also managed Dangerous Dan Spivey and Big Sid Vicious as part of the Skyscrapers. And I think once Sid Vicious came out, they brought in Mean Mark Callis, obviously Undertaker, and paired him with Dangerous Dan Spivey. And I think Teddy Long was still managing them at that time. So yeah, those two go back on their own. So yeah, you gonna get a ton of stories, especially out of Teddy and Taker.
Yeah. So that would be my 5 there. A nice good meal with some good wrestling minds. That it's not going to be a bunch of gimmicks, you know, just a bunch of nice, just yapping about wrestling and what these old heads think about the current landscape of wrestling and you know, and pick their mind, who's their favorites are, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's an awesome answer. I like that. It'd be a very interesting dinner. Trey, do you got anything else you want to plug, buddy?
Nothing else. Just as always, you can always find me in PCW Discord.
Yeah. And next week we're going to be doing the Royal Rumble predictions episode, which I'm kind of excited for. As much as I want to talk about it tonight, I'm kind of like saving it all for that episode. I think it's going to be a good one. So, all right, guys. With that said, I'm going to play our outro music. So, let's get the hell out of here.
Sounds good. You guys have a great one, man. Thank you so much again.
The world's dumbest son of a bitch.
The fact that day in and day out, for almost 6 years, I have proved to everybody in the world that I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary. Nobody can touch me.
You are not ready for Oscar!
Because the Street Profits are up and we want the smoke. You're next. Talk about your songs. Talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass. Well, let me tell you something, brother. New day.
Cream will rise to the top. Oh yeah, Macho Madness here.
Welcome to the Kevin Owens Show.
Lately, he just hasn't been very oozy.
Because I'm the Miz, and I'm awesome.
Those rotten bastards.
Bye-bye, bitch.